I've handled more than my share of political names in this courtroom. I've watched titles and connections and the weight of a family legacy deployed in this room as though they were legal arguments. None of it has ever changed a ruling, but nothing in 29 years prepared me for the specific brand that walked in on a Wednesday morning in October. Not someone who believes they are above the law, but someone who genuinely believed they had brought the law with them. Jordan Calloway didn't just arrive in my courtroom. He arrived as though my courtroom was a room his uncle had already called ahead to arrange. The contempt wasn't in his expression. It was in his posture, in his timing, in the mayor's office liaison sitting 2 rows behind the defense table like a hand resting on a shoulder. What unfolded over the next hour would make very clear to every person present, including that liaison, that no one calls ahead to arrange this room. Not for anyone. The paperwork in front of me was straightforward. Jordan Calloway, 26 years old, charged with contractor fraud, bid manipulation, and municipal contract misrepresentation. The fraudulent award of a $2.3 million city infrastructure contract to a shell company he controlled under a different name, bypassing the competitive bidding process through documentation falsified with the assistance of a deputy in the city's procurement office. Open and shut. But here is what made things interesting. Jordan's uncle was Mayor Richard Calloway, 11 consecutive years in office. His family name on the sports complex, the riverfront renovation, the community arts center. Jordan had clearly grown up believing that proximity to that name was a form of legal standing, including in here. He arrived 20 minutes late, not running behind late, deliberately, calculatedly late. His lead attorney rushed in ahead of him with preemptive framing already in motion. Jordan strolled in behind as though stepping into a meeting he had already decided the outcome of. The charcoal blazer, open collar, no tie. This wasn't court attire. This was a statement about whether this proceeding had the authority to require one. I waited until he had taken his seat. Mr. Calloway, the court has been waiting. Is there a reason for your tardiness? He looked up. Traffic, a single word. No apology. No, Your Honor, just a calibrated indifference. The way you answer someone who you've already decided doesn't outrank you. His attorney stepped in immediately. Your Honor, we sincerely apologize for the delay. I nodded at him. Then I looked back at Jordan. Mr. Calloway, this is a court of law, not a scheduling preference. When this court convenes at 9 WA, you are here at 9 WA. Are we clear? He held my gaze for a beat too long. Then, sure, he had brought 2 attorneys. Stuart Hale, lead counsel from a firm with a documented city retainer history, and a second personal attorney whose separate presence told me Jordan understood at some level that this morning might become something he would have to answer for on his own. And in the gallery, 2 rows directly behind the defense table, a man named Glenn Marsh, listed on the seating sheet as a community liaison for the mayor's office. His presence was not subtle. It was not meant to be. In the 4th row, on the opposite side of the gallery, sat Dolores Osei. Dark green blazer, white blouse, a leather portfolio in her lap that she had carried since the year she opened her firm. Hands folded, the stillness of someone who has spent 14 years building something real and who came to this room because every other mechanism had already failed her. Before I called the proceedings to order, Stuart Hale rose. He described the matter as an administrative irregularity currently under internal city review, noted that the mayor's office had full confidence in the integrity of the city's contracting processes, and suggested that the district attorney's filing was premature. He used the phrase appropriate administrative channels twice in 45 seconds. I did not respond to the framing. I asked Marcus Cole to present the complaint. Marcus Cole presented with the precision of someone who has learned through 8 years of doing this work in this city that documentation is the only argument that cannot be managed from a mayor's office. The bid submissions first. 2 compliance submissions for the Harmon Street Water Main Rehabilitation Contract. The first, OC Civil Solutions, the lowest compliant bid by $340,000 with full certifications, bonding documentation, equipment inventory, and a 12-project reference history in municipal infrastructure work. The second, Greenway Infrastructure Partners LLC, registered 4 months before the bid opening. No employees on record, no bonding, no equipment, no project history. Registered agent address, a mailbox service at a UPS store on the west side of the city, 14 miles from the project site. The award decision, Greenway? The payment records, $18,000 routed through a consulting arrangement to Deputy Procurement Officer Carl Sims, time-stamped within the bid review period, traced to a holding company connected to Jordan Calloway's personal financial network. While Marcus presented this, Jordan Calloway was on his phone beneath the defense table. I watched it for approximately 45 seconds. Then I stopped the proceedings. Mr. Calloway, nothing happening on that phone outranks what is being presented in this room. Phone away. Now. He looked up with the mild irritation of someone interrupted during something more important. He exhaled. Short, dismissive, audible to the entire gallery, and dropped the phone into the pocket of his blazer. Stuart Hale rose immediately. He characterized the payment records as reflecting a consulting arrangement that may have involved a clerical database error, noted that his client had no direct operational knowledge of Greenway's registration details, and pointed out that Deputy Sims had been placed on administrative leave, evidence, he said, of the city's commitment to accountability. He used the phrase good faith administrative process 4 times in the next 6 minutes. I noted the count. It would become relevant. I looked at Jordan directly and asked whether he was aware that Greenway Infrastructure Partners LLC had been registered 4 months before the bid opening with no employees, no bonding, no equipment, and a registered agent address at a mailbox service. He said his investment portfolio included several early-stage business entities and that he was not personally involved in the operational details of each one. I said, Mr. Calloway, Greenway Infrastructure Partners is not a business entity in your investment portfolio. It is the company that was awarded a $2.3 million city contract for which your holding company's accounts received disbursements within 60 days of the award. I want you to tell this court what you understand those disbursements to represent. He looked at his attorney. His attorney looked at the table. Then Jordan said that making this into something bigger than it was didn't serve anyone in this city. His uncle's office had been very clear that this was an administrative matter. The DA's filing was premature. Continuing to pursue it at this level wasn't in the city's interest. The room went still in the specific way rooms go still when someone has just said something they cannot take back. I said, Mr. Calloway, you have just in open court referenced your uncle's elected office as a relevant factor in this proceeding. This court considers that an attempt to introduce political influence into a judicial proceeding. I want you to understand that clearly. His casual composure bent visibly, slightly, in the specific way of someone who expected the name to do what it has always done and is now recalibrating. He said, my uncle runs this city. I just meant, I said, I heard what you meant. I turned to Marcus Cole and asked what else he had. He had considerably more. He presented the internal procurement emails first, obtained through the city controller's subpoena. 6 days before the award decision, Deputy Procurement Officer Carl Sims had forwarded Dolores Osei's full bid submission to an email address associated with Jordan Calloway's holding company. Then the phone records. 11 calls between a number registered to Jordan's personal account and Sims's direct line in the 3 weeks preceding the award. 11 calls during the active bid review period. Then Marcus set a single printed page on the evidence table and described it as the proceeding's central exhibit. It was a text message exchange between Jordan Calloway and Carl Sims, sent on the day the contract award was announced. Sims had written, done. Greenway gets it. Same account as before. Jordan's reply, good. And Carl, the Osei woman, if she pushes back, the mayor's office will handle the appeals board. Don't worry about it. The courtroom did not erupt. It went the specific quiet of a room where something has just fit together in a way that cannot be undone. Jordan said, that text is being taken out of context. I said, Mr. Jordan Calloway, that text references by name a woman whose compliant bid was displaced by a shell company's fraudulent submission. It contains an explicit statement that the mayor's office would manage the outcome of the city's own appeals process. I want to ask you one direct question. Did you personally arrange for the Greenway Infrastructure Partners bid to be submitted and awarded in circumvention of the competitive bidding process? Jordan looked around the room. He looked at Stuart Hale. He looked at the gallery. Glenn Marsh, the mayor's liaison, had been looking at his own phone for the past several minutes. He did not look up. Jordan said he wanted to speak with his attorney. I said, "You have been speaking with your attorney throughout these proceedings. What I have asked is a direct question that this court is entitled to an answer to." He looked at the bench. Then he said, "My uncle," I said, "is not in this room. This court is." What I did next was not dramatic. I picked up the telephone on my bench and made a call. On the record, in open court, while Jordan Calloway and Glenn Marsh and Stuart Hale and everyone in that gallery watched, I called the state municipal auditor's office directly. I stated clearly and for the record that I was referring the matter of the Harmon Street Water Main Rehabilitation Contract Award. The procurement documentation entered into evidence and the text message communication between the defendant Jordan Calloway and Deputy Procurement Officer Carl Sims for immediate independent audit and investigation separate from and superseding any internal city review process currently underway. I noted that the referral would include the full evidentiary record, the documented 4-month non-response from the city's Procurement Appeals Board, and the specific text message in which the defendant referenced the mayor's office's management of that appeals process. I set the phone down. "Mr. Calloway, the internal review your attorney has referenced 4 times this morning is no longer the relevant mechanism. This matter is now in the hands of the state auditor." Jordan stared at the bench with the expression of someone who has just watched the infrastructure they assumed was permanent disappear in a single phone call. In the gallery, Glenn Marsh had stopped looking at his phone. The ruling was this: Jordan Calloway was found guilty of municipal contract fraud and bid manipulation. 90 days in county jail, not community service, not work release, actual jail beginning immediately. 5 years of formal probation, permanent disqualification from participation in any municipal contracting process in this state. Full restitution to Dolores Ossie covering the full value of the contract she was fraudulently denied, her documented legal costs, and compensation for 14 months of business disruption. Carl Sims referred for separate prosecution. The matter of the mayor's office's involvement in the management of the appeals process referred to the state attorney general. Both of Jordan's attorneys were on their feet before I finished the final sentence. I noted each objection for the record. I did not change a single element of the ruling. I looked at Jordan one final time. "Mr. Calloway, you came into this room this morning as though your uncle's name had called ahead to arrange it. In 29 years, no one has called ahead to arrange this room. Not once. Not for anyone." I turned to the gallery and invited Dolores Ossie to address the court. She stood with the steadiness of someone who has been doing difficult things for a long time and has learned that the difficult things are worth doing. She said she did not come for revenge. She came because she employs 11 people, and on the Monday morning after the contract was awarded to Greenway, those 11 people showed up to work, and she had to tell them that a project they had spent 6 weeks preparing for was gone. She came because one of those 11 people is 23 years old, grew up 2 streets from the Harmon Street water main, and on that Monday asked her whether there was any point in doing things the right way. She paused. Then she said, "I told him yes. I told him the system is slow and it doesn't always work and sometimes you have to fight for it. But yes, I needed this room to make that true." The gallery did not applaud. It held the silence of a room that has just heard something that needed to be said precisely that way and has nothing to add to it. The bailiffs moved toward Jordan Calloway. He was led from the courtroom. He did not look at Dolores when he passed the gallery. Mayor Richard Calloway issued a statement later that afternoon, expressing full confidence in the judicial process and announcing full cooperation with any state-level review. It did not mention Jordan. The state municipal auditor's investigation opened within 48 hours. 4 additional contract awards from the preceding 3 years were identified in which Greenway Infrastructure Partners or associated entities had received municipal work through the same procurement pathway. The total value of the fraudulent contracts, calculated across all 5 awards, came to $7.1 million in city funds directed to shell companies, away from compliant bidders who had earned them on the merits. Carl Sims entered a plea agreement and cooperated fully. The state attorney general's investigation confirmed that the mayor's office had been directly involved in the management of 2 separate procurement appeals board proceedings across the preceding 3 years. Mayor Callaway announced he would not seek re-election. 3 members of the Procurement Appeals Board resigned within the same week. Jordan's motion for early release was denied. Jordan Callaway served his 90 days without the exceptions he had spent his entire life assuming were available to him. The restitution was paid to Dolores Ossie. She used a portion of it to prepare a new bid when the Harmon Street contract was retendered under a process overseen by the state auditor's office. Ossie Civil Solutions submitted the lowest compliant bid. Again, they won the contract. Again, her firm completed the project on schedule and under budget. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony on a Tuesday morning in March, Dolores's youngest employee, 23 years old, grew up 2 streets from the site, stood at the microphone, and gave a 2-minute address to the neighborhood. At the end, he said, "There is a point. I keep that sentence in the desk drawer where I keep the ones that remind me why I put the robe on in the morning. The phone on my bench is the same phone I used to call the state auditor that October morning. It sits there every day. It is not a statement or a symbol. It is just a phone. That morning it was enough. I want to say something directly to everyone watching this. This case was not about punishing political connection. It was about ensuring that political connection does not function as a substitute for the law. There is a difference, and this courtroom exists to maintain it. What matters in this room is whether the documentation is accurate, whether the bid was compliant, whether the person who won on the merits receives what they earned. Dolores Ossie won the Harmon Street contract 14 months before she set foot in this courthouse. She lost it because someone decided that a text message to a bribed procurement officer was a faster mechanism than the competitive bidding process. Jordan Callaway walked in believing his uncle's name had arranged the outcome. He had even written it down. The mayor's office will handle the appeals board. What he did not account for was that the internal review was not the only mechanism available. It took 30 seconds and a telephone call to make that true. Dolores's youngest employee stood at a ribbon cutting on a Tuesday morning in March and told his neighborhood that there is a point in doing things the right way. That is why this bench exists, not to dismantle political families to be the room that no one has called ahead to arrange. That room still exists. The gavel comes down. The real work is what happens after. Share this. Subscribe. Justice still has a pulse. It was always meant for everyone, not just the people whose uncles run the city.